Hello, and welcome to our presentation on embedding OER and Liaison Librarians in new course development. My name is Jennifer Pate, and I am the OER and Scholarly Communications Librarian at the University of North Alabama. Presenting with me today is Margaret McGuire, UNA's Access Services and GovDocs Librarian. John McGee is the Executive Director of our Division of Educational Technology at UNA. We were unable to align our schedules to pre-record with him. He's a pretty busy guy, but he is my campus OER partner, and this program was his brainchild. So big shout out to John. I want to start with a short overview of the OER program we have built here at UNA and how it has grown over the last 3.5 years. Prior to the launch of our OER program, at the end of spring 2020, which of course was at the height of COVID-19, and the mass transition to online learning on our campus, as well as campuses worldwide, we had already spent almost a year assessing faculty understanding and then designing a program that would offer stipends to faculty who wanted to implement OER or textbook equity measures, such as course reserves, unlimited book licenses, and other library purchase materials in their courses. This program has exceeded all expectations, and I want to highlight some of our milestones. As you can see here, we have been able to fund 70 projects in 3 years, and we've saved students over $750,000 annually. When we last assessed our campus implementation, over 50% of campus departments have at least one course that is OER. We have implemented course marking for students so that they can see which courses are low cost and no cost before they register. We have built a master's in instructional design as a zero-cost degree, and we are working with our Department of Communication on building a Z-degree program for comm studies. We're about halfway through the planned 3-year implementation of that project, which includes textbook development. Speaking of textbook development, our OER program led to the launch of UNA's first digital publishing imprint in the spring of 2022. There are currently 21 books either published or in some phase of production, 13 of which were funded through our program, including a 5-book German series that is the first of its kind by Dr. Rebecca Leenham, who is an adjunct professor at UNA. This success owes a lot to strong administrative support and funding from our president and our former provost, as well as a robust OER education campaign. We are starting to assess the impact of embedding OER in Liaison Librarians in new course development, which began in the summer of 2021. As I mentioned before, John McGee is the Executive Director of Educational Technology Services, which houses our campus instructional design team and is responsible for the administration of our campus learning management system, Canvas. ETS, as we call it, had a course development program for new online courses for quite a few years. This requires that online courses are designed to follow Quality Matters guidelines. As we are gearing up for year 2 of our OER stipend program, John proposed adding the library liaisons and the OER librarian to the initial meeting between the instructor who is building the course and their instructional designer or designers, sometimes they work in tandem, who are helping them adhere to QM guidelines. So starting in the summer of 2021, we began attending these meetings, which is here in step 3. So that we could discuss how we could support quality course design with low cost, no cost, or library provided resources. In addition, John added this piece to their webpage, which discusses specifically how we can help. So next, I'm going to discuss my role as the OER librarian at these meetings. At each new course development meeting, I give a brief overview of how I can assist their course design. This takes no more than 5 to 7 minutes maximum, excluding any follow-up questions the faculty member may have. So in my new course design elevator speech, if it is a faculty member that we have not worked with before, I give them an introduction to our program, the benefits for them, the benefits for their students, and how our program awards stipends. I also discuss specific support that I can provide, such as locating OER that aligns with their topics or learning outcomes, helping them understand open licenses, and how to adapt or create OER. Part of what I do after this initial meeting is I create a shared document with the professor, the instructional designer, and the liaison librarian where we can compile resources. As you can see here, it includes notes about the digital licensing of their chosen commercial textbook, and it also includes their course objectives and OER resources that I found that they might want to use in place or in addition to the textbook that they're requiring. I also include the digital licensing available here for the OER resources. This is a living document that can be updated as new OER resources are found or new library subscriptions are added. I also direct faculty to our OER LibGuide that includes information about OER search engines, licensing information, copyright, creating and remixing resources, and information about our funding program. I also encourage them to enroll in our Canvas course that covers the basics of OER. It's a self-enroll, and it is required to complete this course if they want to apply for funding. Finally, I introduce our digital press. I explain the support that we provide if they want to create, remix, or adapt OER. I explain our current publishing platform, Pressbooks, and how we will archive materials for them in our repository. I also discuss how we can support and how we have supported open pedagogy projects on our campus. It's a lot of information, but I make sure that faculty know that I'm always available for any follow-up one-on-ones to answer any questions that they may have. I then turn it over to our liaison librarian. If that liaison librarian is not me, I am also a liaison to 3 campus departments. And then that liaison librarian will cover library-specific support, which is what Margaret will discuss now.
Hello all, I am Margaret McGuire, the Access Services and Government Documents Librarian at Collier Library. I am also the liaison librarian to the academic departments of History, Chemistry and Physics, and Engineering and Industrial Professions at the University of North Alabama. I will be providing my perspective, my strategies, and my takeaways as a liaison librarian embedded in the new course development process. In the initial meeting with the faculty member, the instructional designers, and the OER librarian, I'm usually the one providing a quick overview of the library's resources and liaison-specific services. I will touch on our course reserve collection for both print books, ebooks, and articles for the course, discipline-specific databases available to the students and faculty, interlibrary loan services that can be used to sample sources for use in the course ahead of time, research consultations available to students and faculty to assist in larger projects and information literacy, and our tech lending and poster printing services, which can be useful for a variety of assignments and projects. I usually try to tailor my spotlighted services based on the course itself. For example, for history courses, I may highlight digital archives or collections of primary sources we have access to. For engineering or chemistry, I may touch on our 3D printing services, camera equipment to record experiments, poster printing for simulating conference presentations for students, or giving them opportunities to showcase their research in new ways. In this meeting, I may also show them specific resources in the library's collection, gathered in advance that I think are applicable based on their syllabus. I usually show them an example of a LibGuide that can be paired with their course. The LibGuide contains a cultivated selection of books, journals, databases, and video tutorials to help guide students in various ways. Here is an example of what I show them. I created this guide for a new manufacturing engineering course with a faculty member last fall. This resource shows several handbooks on processes and models. I created a top journals list so that students can access high-quality publications to follow along the development of scholarly conversations and to keep track of important updates in their discipline. I also curate a database list based on the topic. I included a section of government resources, technical reports, patents, statistics, and how to find those. There's also a section on OER resources for engineering compiled jointly with the OER librarian, as well as general research tips for database searching and organizing sources based on the discipline. During the development of the course, I will regularly check in with faculty members via email, Teams, and in-person consultations, depending on their preference. I often build a Zotero library from library resources that they can peruse and use to identify new types of resources for their course. I also assist in general resource collection. I can help the faculty member request materials through interlibrary loan or investigate licensing of copyrighted materials. I coordinate with our acquisitions librarian to purchase materials and to create and update the faculty member's course reserve page where students can access their course reserves via the library's website. If they are interested in the LibGuide, I will develop that guide and work together with the faculty member to customize it to their needs and interests. I see the structure and contents of the guide as something to be made jointly, combining their expertise in the field and their learning objectives for the course alongside my experience with navigating library resources and giving students contextual guidance in doing so. This is an example of one such Zotero library I created for a UNA faculty member. I initially arranged the library based off the modules outlined in the syllabus, and then separated the resources out into primary and secondary resources where relevant. Part of this process is to offer a tutorial to faculty members on different tools, like using Zotero, and how to customize that library of resources to suit their needs. Zotero, or similarly EndNote libraries, are great ways to provide a collection of resources curated to the faculty's interests, and you can also attach PDFs directly to citations so they have a central location for relevant resources. This is another guide built as part of this process. This guide is paired with the historiography course at UNA and not only provides guidance on relevant historical databases and on locating sources, but also on evaluating sources. This guide also provides blueprints for the course's primary assignments to create an annotated bibliography and historiographical essay, and includes examples of both of those assignments. For the liaison librarian, I have seen that being embedded in this process has many benefits. First would be building awareness of library resources. You can introduce faculty to various tools to simplify their resource gathering and organizing, like Zotero, as well as new collections and resources relevant to their topic in our various database subscriptions. This process also allows the liaison librarians an in-depth view into the faculty member's process and their specific needs for their course, which can be used to improve liaison services. While liaison librarians often reach out to faculty in diverse ways throughout the semester, being embedded in a new course development can open a conversation with the faculty member in direct, practical terms for how different collections and services can be used for assignments and to create a multifaceted learning experience for the student in that specific course. Because this conversation is directly tied to the creation of that course, the faculty member also tend to connect broader library services to specific applications in the classroom. For example, the use of poster printing to recreate a conference scenario, building both data visualization and public speaking skills for their students. Our technology collection, including cameras and drones, can be used in different types of experiential learning activities. 3D printing has been used for different courses like history and architecture to create a visual representation of a historic time or place, bolstering the experience of the student in new ways. Being embedded in new course development also deepens the relationship between the faculty member and the librarian. You are introduced into the new course development and to the faculty member from the start. You can offer varying forms of assistance throughout the entire process and build that relationship very naturally. Faculty have a more in-depth understanding of what the library can offer and what their liaison librarians specifically can do for them and for their students. Being embedded in this process allows the liaison librarian to provide specific resource and research support at the exact moment of need, which seems to have more of an impact on sustaining that connection over time. You can also build a web of connections amongst the department as part of this process. When faculty get together at various points of the semester, they often hear from each other about resources the liaison has created for them, like the LibGuides or custom video tutorials. They also hear directly from their students about how working directly with the librarian on their projects and one-on-one consultations has benefited them. It not only broadens the perspective of the library's services and resources, but being embedded in new course development also tends to generate more appreciation and support for the library as a partner in research and instruction on campus. And now I'm going to turn this back over to Jennifer Pate so she can discuss the preliminary results of our case study of embedding librarians in new course development at UNA.
So the big question is this working? Is embedding OER and liaison librarians making a difference in our campus OER program? We have now been embedded in new course development for 2 years. Is the impact of our being embedded proportional to the time that we spend attending these meetings? Anecdotally, we felt like it was working. Faculty would reach out after meetings to talk to us about library support, or about OER, or about licensing and copyright. But we needed actual data, not just feelings. So in January of 2023, I began compiling a spreadsheet of all of our new course development meetings so far, and noting those where I knew the faculty member had used some form of OER or textbook equity measures because they had either applied for stipend funding or because I was their liaison librarian and I had worked with them to implement these measures. So what did the data show? Well, from this initial assessment, based solely on those who had applied for funding and 1 or 2 specific cases where I was the liaison librarian and I knew what resources they had used, we determined that just under 30% of faculty adopted OER or textbook equity measures after our being embedded in their initial new course development. But what also began emerging from the data was a broader view of the impact of our input at those meetings. The top screenshot shows how I was compiling the data. You can see here where I noted those who chose to use OER, who had funding, and in one case, one faculty member who used OER and library resources but never applied for funding. The bottom screenshot, though, tells a different story. Of the 4 faculty members that I have highlighted with yellow arrows, you can see that only one, Dr. Lindsay, used OER or textbook equity measures. But because of our work with these faculty members, Dr. Aguado is now developing an OER textbook. He is going to be editing it, and it is part of our work with the Open Education Network's KATITA pilot program. Dr. Montiero went back and redesigned 2 of her older courses that would not be part of a new course development process so that they use OER, and she even applied for stipend funding for one of them. Dr. Garrison has used quite a bit of OER in other courses. She has never applied for funding, but she recently just adopted a OER textbook that she is adapting for one of her courses. And then, of course, there's Dr. Lindsay, who I mentioned before. She is the head of our Instructional Technology Master's Program, and she moved forward with redesigning the entire program to be zero cost. It is our first zero cost program on campus. Because of her work to make sure that her courses were zero cost, she was our 2022-2023 Faculty OER Excellence Award winner, because not only were her courses free of any course material costs, but they were also of the highest quality. Now that we see that there is impact, we want to spend the next year diving a little bit deeper. Working with the faculty and the instructional designers, we want to assess other courses that may have included OER that didn't apply for funding. We want to assess if those courses are completely free and are marked appropriately in our registration software banner, or if maybe they just included pieces of OER or library license material. We also want to do follow-up qualitative interviews with our faculty who both did and did not use OER or any other textbook equity measures to see what factors influence their decisions. While we're doing all of this work, we continue to be embedded in the first meetings, and we will continue to promote how we can support quality course design while working for textbook equity for our students. Thank you for watching our OER presentation. We hope you are having a great time at the Open Ed conference. It is one of our favorites. If you have any questions at all about our presentation, please reach out to me directly at jpate1@una.edu. Thanks again.